Why just take a normal vacation if you can take a beercation?
Beercations could be the answer to this bartender's pandemic struggles. Alexa Liacko found out why he's hoping that this will be his best year yet.
Beer, the other great equalizer. Well, that's at least what Chris Bettini knows to be true.
You belly up to the bar. The person to the right of you could be making 10 times more money than you make, and the person to the right could be making 10 times less. But for the price of a beer, you're kind of equal for the next 30 minutes.
He observed this for years working behind the bar, but it wasn't until he started his own travel company that he lived it.
My tours kind of came about out of an unknown love to travel. I didn't have my first passport until 2008.
But after a few trips to Germany and brewing his own beer with European brewmasters, he had an idea.
Why just take a normal vacation if you can take a beercation? I'm in my full lederhosen at a festival, my hat's on, 2 big beer mugs, and you can tell I'm having a great time. It ended up 18 people wanted to travel with me. So I actually went and got my LLC and a tour operator insurance and officially made it an official company.
He became a one-man tour company and started Pub Culture Beercations. His first trip was in 2017 to the Netherlands, and the good times took off from there.
It's kind of a way to explore the world one pint at a time, and to do it in a way where you kind of get in with the locals. You get to see more than your normal flashy, fancy tourist sites.
2020 was going to be the first year the bartender turned business owner made a profit.
Everything changed. Within 24 hours, everything changed.
COVID-19 stopped his wanderlust in its tracks.
I had to just start shutting down one after another. Then there was a trip to Germany in May, and another trip to Germany in June, and a trip to the Czech Republic in October.
All trips had to be canceled. Travelers and tour guides alike soon found undoing weeks of elaborate planning was no easy task from thousands of miles away.
The hotels had no staff. I would email, but there was nobody to reply back.
Hotels refused to give Chris refunds, which made it hard to pay back his customers.
I did look into cashing in my 401k for extra money to help pay for some of that, because money was tied up in these deposits in hotels and money with bus companies.
He worked for months to keep his word.
I'm hoping that that will come back. Word of mouth and just being a good tour person will eventually help me to provide more tours and more memories and more experiences for other people around the country and the world.
Today, Chris has travelers waiting at home, passports at the ready.
Now we're still looking at 18 months, maybe 2 years later, and we're not 100% sure what'll happen.
But he believes when it's safe, Beercations will be back.
I hope people are ready to just say, yeah, I'm no longer putting off 5 years to take that trip I've always wanted to take. I think that once the world is ready to travel again, people are going to want to travel again.
There's a German word Chris learned that describes just what his travels mean.
In German, they say Gemütlichkeit, loosely translates into the cozy feeling of belonging.
And once you've tasted that feeling, often packed in a pint-sized ice-cold beer, Chris believes you'll never be able to forget it.
Because we're sitting around having a beer and enjoying ourselves, the world just keeps getting smaller. And I think that if we can approach the world that way, to make it a smaller place, it maybe ends up also in the long run becoming a little bit more of a place where we all get along.
For The Race, I'm Alexa Liacko.
While outbreaks threatened the food supply, the pandemic was hurting another crisis even more. We're talking about food waste. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates the U.S. wastes or loses 40 million tons of food each year. That's 40% of the country's total supply and the equivalent of 1,000 Empire State Buildings. The waste has a staggering economic impact, costing $218 billion a year, or $1,600 per family per year.
We had hoped that we'd be seeing a decline as people are now more familiar with food waste, but that's not the case, or at least it's not happening as fast as it needs to be happening.
Andrea Collins is a sustainable food system specialist with the National Resources Defense Council. She says that food waste cost estimates vary quite a bit because there isn't a set system of measurement.
It would be great if we had a smart meter for food waste, in the same way that someone can look at their electricity bill and say, oh, I wasted more electricity, I should change some things in my house. We need to have that same thing in our homes, where we can say, why is food waste occurring? But we don't have the system in place all the way across the country to be able to do this efficiently or effectively.
Experts say a key part of reducing the waste is understanding why it happens in the first place. Studies have shown up to 80% of people have thrown away perfectly good food because they misunderstood the best by or expiration labels.
We think that this expiration date is gospel truth, and it's not in most cases. The date is really just telling you the manufacturer's best guess for when a food will remain at its peak quality. Our senses of smell will tell us before food will make us sick. And I know a lot of us don't want to be that guinea pig of testing it, but really, if it's going to make you sick, your nose will tell you in advance.
A national nonprofit called ReFed estimates food waste spiked at the beginning of the pandemic after leveling off in 2016. It developed a framework to help reduce food waste by 50% by 2030, a move it estimates will generate $73 billion to the economy, 4 billion meals for people in need, and 51,000 new jobs. The race continues next.